Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the iWorkinSport live interview. This is the show where we talk to accomplished sport business professionals who come here to share their knowledge, experience, tips, and advice in order to help you succeed in your career. If we're just meeting, my name is João Frigerio. I'm the founder of iWorkinSport, and I want to thank you for being here with us today. And I'd like to know, is it your first time joining us at these live interviews? If it is, or if it isn't, either way, just let us know in the comments. If it is, welcome to the show. Oh, by the way, let us know as well where you're watching from. That's always good to know. And of course, if you're watching the replay, also please leave a comment. We check all of them. If you don't know iWorkinSport, we're a platform to help you accelerate your career in sport. If you want to work in sport or if you already work in sport, we're here for you either way. We organize events which connect you with recruiters in case you're looking for a job, or with sports management academic programs if you're interested in investing in education. These programs can be a very effective way to enter the industry. In fact, we have just announced our upcoming events. First, there's the Education Expo, the Educational Virtual Expo, that will take place on 6th and 7th of April. So if you're interested in meeting some of the best sports management programs, it's free. Please just go to the description below if you're watching this on YouTube and register for free. Otherwise, just go to iWorkinSport.com/EVE for Education Virtual Expo. And there is, on the 20th of May, we'll be back at the Swiss Tech Convention Center for the iWorkinSport Job Fair. After doing it virtually for the last 2 years, we're going back live in person. It's going to be great. We will be celebrating 5 years of the first one that was in 2017. So it would be great to meet many of you in person there. So again, that's a great place for you to go and meet the recruiters from some of the best sports organizations face to face. There's also a link in the description. It's iWorkinSport, or just go to iWorkinSport.com/job fair. Now, let me introduce my guest. So Jessie Engelhart is an up-and-coming international sports lawyer, founding partner of a firm called Sensato Sports Law. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Let me just take this away. Sorry. So she's the founding partner of a firm called Sensato Sports Law. She has also passed by other law firms too. She has also worked for or at UEFA and FC Barcelona, albeit not in legal, but at their strategy and innovation departments. We will learn more about her work as a lawyer and in other areas, and we'll get plenty of advice as she's also mentors aspiring young professionals. She teaches at prestigious programs, and she has just launched her own masterclass. So there's a lot to talk about. Let's get to it. Let me invite Jessie right after this. Hi, Jessie. Welcome to the show.
Hi, everyone.
How are you doing?
Jan, I'm good. How are you?
Very well, very well. Great to have you here in the show. We were just saying before this, We've been talking for some time already online, but we haven't really met in person. So it's really nice to have this opportunity to talk to you. I've been following your work with interest. We already sort of collaborate. You're one of the coaches listed on iWorkinSport.com website. So again, very, very nice to have you here. Very quickly, before we start, let me just give a shout out to some people that are watching and already posted. We have the Planox, also known as Taruka in India. Hello, Taruka. Good to see you here again. There is Mohammed Ali from Sweden saying hi. And there's Anika Sports Agency. Hello, Anika, in Ghana. So people from all over different continents. For everybody else who's watching it, if you want to say where you're watching from, say hi. That's great. Jessie, before there's as I mentioned at the introduction, I think there's a lot to talk about. But let's start with summary of your career. Let us know. I mean, I take it that you studied law, but tell us about how you started working and specifically in sport.
Yeah. Okay. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on, and hi to everyone watching. Thank you guys for tuning in. Yeah, we have so much to discuss, and like you said, we've already been in touch for quite a while because some of our activities overlap, especially in the mentoring part. But I'll give you a brief rundown through my professional career so far. So I'm Dutch. I live in Barcelona right now, but I'm Dutch, and I studied law. Obviously, I went to law school because I always knew that law is just something that really fits my personality. I'm very organized, analytical. I like to solve problems, so I always felt like law would be a good choice for me. So I went to law school, but I wasn't really sure of what area to specialize in. Like, I wasn't a big fan of either specifically criminal law or civil law or any of those legal areas. So I just kind of went through it, was a really good student, and then I started doing internships. And that's actually also the first time I actually came across sports law, because I was dealing with some sponsorship agreements and some image rights agreements, and that's when I started thinking, oh my God, actually sports law is a thing. And coming from a very sportive family, I've always loved watching football and doing sports myself. And I actually started.
I didn't mean to interrupt. Where was that? Were you then in the Netherlands or in Spain?
Yeah, so yeah, I kind of skipped that part. So I did 6 months of an exchange in Brazil during law school, and there also I volunteered at some favelas, which is also where I came in touch a bit more with soccer and actually how much it can change the world and the impact it has on society. So that kind of enforced that feeling of like, oh my God, it would be so nice to work with sports, but I never really felt like there was a direct connection with law. So when I actually did this internship, this was in Barcelona. So I interned at a Dutch law firm here, right after, or like a year and a half after law school. And I also did an internship in Madrid. And at both firms, I dealt with these type of contracts, which I guess I was lucky, because if I hadn't dealt with those contracts, I would have never probably discovered sports law. So that kind of opened my eyes a little bit, and that's when I started really exploring this area of sports law, which is an area that I think not a lot of people are very aware of. So when I realized that that's what I wanted to do, I also realized I needed to have some kind of specialization, some education. So I started researching, and that's how I came across my university where I studied, which is ESEI. I did the master's in sports management and legal skills. So it's like a combination where you do management and law. And I specifically chose that one because I felt like, and I still feel that today, that for a lawyer, it's very important in the sports industry to have a broader understanding of the ecosystem of sports. So, it's great if I know all the rules and the legal codes inside out, but it's what really is important that you know who the stakeholders are, how the dynamics work between clubs, federations, like the structure in general. So that's actually the reason why I decided to opt for a bit of a broader study field, which was sports management and law. And I loved it. Like, the moment I stepped foot in the classroom, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, I was looking at all these, I remember like seeing like the structure of like clubs like FC Barcelona. We had professors from FC Barcelona. I did so many different cool field trips, and I got to learn so much more about the sports ecosystem. And that's also when I got my first internship at FC Barcelona. It was through
When
that
was
master's
that?
degree. That was, I'm very bad with years, but it was like 6 months into the program. I think this was maybe 2017. It's a
Right.
couple of, yeah, about 5 years ago, I think. And that for me was obviously my dream come true, for me to work at the club that I had always been such a fan of. I remember just stepping foot into the club and thinking like, oh my God, like this is amazing. And I get to work here. So I actually interned at the Barca Innovation Hub, which back in
Right.
the day, it was very new and I had no clue what it even was. Maybe it's 4 years ago. I had no clue what it even was. And I just kind of said yes to it because I was like, oh my God, like it sounds cool. Let's just go with it. And I absolutely loved it. Like basically, you guys can Google Barca Innovation Hub. It's too much to explain right now, but basically they work with a lot of startups. They do research and they basically, conduct a lot of activities all surrounding knowledge in sports. They want to share knowledge and be open about it, open innovation. I talked to so many different clubs, about experts from different clubs to kind of share knowledge all together and to really try and lift sports up to a higher level.
Right.
So thankfully, thanks to working in that department, I got to work with a lot of the different departments in the club, because what we did was we basically spoke to every department and then asked them like, okay, how can we help you innovate? How can we help you improve your current systems? What can we do to elevate your game? So that for me was amazing because I got to really understand the structure of a big club like FC Barcelona. I got to deal with so many different stakeholders, visit different clubs. And yeah, I absolutely loved it. And then I actually secured a full-time job there. I worked there for about a year and a half. And then I got the opportunity to move to Switzerland to work at UEFA.
Not bad.
So yeah, you're based in Switzerland. So
Yeah.
I I got there, and I got there actually in the form of an internship because they were looking for an intern in the UEFA Innovation Hub. And even though I was already a full-time employee at Barca, which obviously for me it was a bit difficult to switch from going, from a full-time job position back to an internship position. But at the same time, I knew that, what I wanted was to really grow and learn more. And I felt like, okay, it might look like it's a step back, but it's not really, because it's a step higher technically, because UEFA is like, one level even higher than a club. So I did the internship there, and I also ended up working there. And I was basically doing this kind of the same thing I was doing at Barca, but at a different skill and from a different perspective, obviously, and dealing with different type of stakeholders. And again, it was really, really amazing. And because I was working with so many different startups, that also kind of sparked or enforced, I would say, this entrepreneurial spirit that I had inside of me. Because I come from an entrepreneurial family, and I always knew that one day I wanted to have my own business. But obviously, it's important to first get some experience in the field before starting your own business. Where I felt like
Of
that was important
course.
for me, and especially in the sports industry. Like I said before, it was really important for me to not just have the theoretical knowledge, but also know how the ecosystem works, which is very important. Um, so that's actually when I decided that I wanted to start my own firm, because I really wanted to go back to law, because I had worked in innovation for about 3 years now. And I really enjoyed it, but I felt like my future was in law. And obviously, at some point, you need to make that switch. So yeah, I went back to Barcelona, and I started my own law firm. It's Sato Sports Law, it's called, with two former classmates that I met during my
Yeah.
degree at ESEI. And we're still running up and today, and it's going really well. I'm very happy. I'm doing so many different things on the side as well. Like I said, the
I,
mentoring,
I,
which
I read you had a case just a few hours ago, and it went well. Is that right? So,
exactly, yeah, we had a case yesterday about image rights in an online hearing with the South African National Courts. And I had never appeared before that court before, and it's quite different because sports law is very international, like there's international legislation. And so they were dealing with some terminology and some things and customs me and my partner had never heard of even. So now we're collaborating with a South African attorney actually on this case, but we won the case, thank God, because all our paperwork, well, we had a very strong case. And
congratulations.
thank you. It was very interesting. So yeah, there's a first for everything. And, I'm very young, obviously. Like I don't have the same experience that a 6-year-old lawyer has, but I have different things to bring to the table, which is my understanding of modern day technology, my understanding of the future of sports, my understanding of the ecosystem, and obviously my legal knowledge. So yeah, I'm very happy with how things are going so far.
That's great. That's great. Listen, there are already some comments here and even questions. So very quickly, Abhay, say hi from UK. You mentioned that you were in Brazil for 6 months. So Otacílio Lima says hi from Barra Bonita. I don't know if you got to go there.
I did.
There's actually I normally save questions more to the end after the second half, but there's a good one here. So let's go with that. So Taruka asks, not many women in sports law, she says, and a great combo to choose. Have you faced any challenges because of your gender?
Great question. And thanks for being in the chat. I love that. It's so funny because I was thinking about that today. Because a girl reached out to me on Instagram, Anna is her name, and she was just saying that she really admired my career and stuff. And I was thinking, like, that's actually the first time in a while that I've gotten a comment from a girl interested in sports law. And I was thinking, why? Like, there's a lot of female lawyers, but maybe not as many sports lawyers. So thanks for being in the chat and thanks for your question. I would say I can sometimes use it to my advantage and sometimes it's a disadvantage. Obviously, I think in terms of, and I had this chat the other day on a podcast that I was on. Sometimes when when it comes to first impressions, being a girl is sometimes it can help because somehow you come across maybe more sympathetic,
Nice. Yeah.
or nice, a little bit more maybe innocent. So sometimes the first impression can help. But on the other side, there's a lot of prejudice, obviously, when it comes in general to women in sports because they might feel like you don't have the same knowledge or understanding of the sports as guys. They maybe take you a little bit less serious. I have to say that now working in law specifically, it's a little bit less the stigma, I would say, because somehow I think there's this association of people that I think like, okay, women are, super organized and nitty gritty and law is kind of like that. So they trust me with that. But I do remember working in innovation. Sometimes they would be like, okay, but what do you know like about tech solutions and startups and sports? Like it's, I kind of felt like that sometimes. And I kind of felt that I had to kind of prove myself maybe twice as much as a guy would. Maybe something that I just felt internally. But yeah, I do think there was a bit of a stigma sometimes around it, but I'm trying to change that now. And also by being so active on social media nowadays, I'm hoping to kind of help and contribute to that, changing that perspective a little bit. But
that's great. Taruka, thank you for the question. Actually, let me remind everyone who's watching at home then, please, you're welcome to participate in the conversation as well. The chat is at your disposal. Chat with us and we'll make our best to bring your questions to Jessie. Jessie, so you have your own law firm, but you're also teaching and you're just launching a masterclass. We're going to talk about that in a bit. But what's a normal day like for you?
Thank you for that question. It's very a little bit all over the place, which is a little bit against my nature because I'm very organized. Like as you can see here, I have like my planner where I like to structure my day, my week, and my daily routines. And now because I'm doing so many different things on the side as well, because I have this like entrepreneurial fire inside of me. So like you mentioned, I'm also teaching a lot. I'm a content creator for different sports law management programs. I do mentoring. I have my own course. I'm active on social media. I have my own blog. I'm doing a lot of things on the side. So my day is very diverse, which is also what I love about it. So basically, I respond to emails from clients. I get on a lot of calls with clients. I'm doing podcasts, webinars like these. I'm creating social media posts. I'm looking at my personal branding on my LinkedIn and Instagram. I'm looking at the branding for the website for Sensato Sports Law. Connecting on LinkedIn with new clients because obviously we're a young firm, so we need to grow and expand our client base. So I'm always looking to connect, and especially in sports, it's so important to build a solid network. So I'm always connecting with other people. Sometimes I lecture at the university, so I have to prepare the lecture. I work on cases. Yesterday I had this oral hearing before the South African court for 3 hours. It was from like 7:30 in the morning until like 11. So that my day started earlier. Yeah, I do so many different things, and that's also kind of what I love about it, because I wanted to kind of escape the typical 9 to 5 job, which worked. Now I work a lot, but it's all things that I'm very, very, very passionate about, and it's like it all feels like it's like my personal project, you know. And that's something that I'm sure you can relate with iWorkinSport. And it's like you're seeing the growth, and you know it's all kind of not because of you, because you have a team, obviously, but it's your vision is becoming a reality, and that's very nice.
Yeah, even with the team, I do work a lot as well. I know how you feel. By the way, just a few more people saying hi here. Let me go quickly. So Regina as well from Barra Bonita as well in São Paulo. Erica, my wife, is from there. So the show is popular there. Jesus Lorenzo is usually here with us. Nice to see you back here. Jesus says hi from Ren. And this made me smile. Taruka said, thanks for the brilliant answer. I hope you'll be the next Annalise Keating of sports law. So I just finished that show, How to Get Away with Murder. Good
Love
one.
it.
And what is it that the thing that you like the most about your job? Since you do so many things, different one, teaching, mentoring. Of course, you have your cases, and maybe what you love the most. And I don't know, in terms of business today, what is it that actually drives your business?
So what I love the most, I guess, is the fact that I get to deal with so many different people and cultures. When I studied law, I majored in international law because I'd always loved like the international component. I don't know why, but I always felt like Holland was too small for me, and I wanted to learn languages and go out in the world and meet different people, meet different cultures. And that's exactly what I get to do now in my job, thanks to the different things that I do. In my sports law practice, I get to deal with so many players, agents, clubs from different cultures, different countries, and I absolutely love that. And the same for my side business, which is my mentoring and my courses. I get to deal with students from all over the world, and the two components that these two businesses have in common is basically helping other people and the international dimension of it. I would say that's what I love the most, that I get to help people, obviously, as a lawyer, solve their cases. Sometimes it doesn't work out, but most of the time it does, or at least I'm willing to help and trying to help if we have a weak case and there's not much that can be done. But I love that. And the same with my mentoring business. I love helping other people by kind of, reaching them or giving to them the tools that I wish I had when I was in their shoes a couple of years ago. So I would say those two things, helping and the fact that it's all very international, that I get to meet different people and cultures.
Great. I'm going to jump again to another question that arrived here. And this is from Abhay Katpalia in the UK. Hi there. I'm currently pursuing my master's degree in sports management at Loughborough University. I'm really interested in working with UEFA, preferably on policy making. I'm currently working on a research on the effectiveness and implications of FFP introduced by UEFA. I suppose that's a financial fair play that he's referring to. I'd like to know your opinion on FFP and how I could enroll for your masterclass. Thanks a lot.
Hi,
For the
Abe.
masterclass, I can tell him there's a link in the description. Actually, you're watching this on LinkedIn, right? On YouTube, there's a link there. But go on, or give your website too.
Yeah, thank you for your question. I would actually love to chat to you about this another day in more detail, because I was actually part of the team that was working on the FFP reforms while at UEFA. So I have a lot to say about that and a lot to think about. But obviously, I don't want to bore everyone with this topic. But I would love to chat to you a bit in more detail about that another time. And as for my masterclass, yeah. So you said you're studying sports management. Are you also interested in law? because I have my legal masterclass, which is for aspiring sports lawyers. But if you're interested in sports management in general, I have another course coming out soon, which is a sports career guide. And basically, you can go to my website and you can just sign up there, which is my full name, jessieengelhart.com. And then you go to masterclass. And I'll just drop the links below in the chat later if that's easier for you, okay? And you can reach out to me on LinkedIn, please, so then we can chat a bit more about the FFB.
That's great. We'll talk about those two in a bit. You mentioned many things that you love and about your job. Alessio Pietra came here and asked if there's anything that you don't like.
Definitely. Definitely. There's a lot of things I love, but there's some things that I don't like. What I don't like is the fact that it's all about how to frame this. It's in this industry, I would say it's more about who you know than what you know. And that's something that I had to come to terms with in the beginning, where I kind of felt like, I did all these master's degrees and I had so much knowledge, and I was like, okay, so it should be easy for me to, become an expert and all of that. And that's kind of when I started realizing, like, actually the sports industry is a very specific industry, and it's a bit of a close industry and quite hard to get into. And I see that every day. And when I'm dealing with students, for example, they're telling me like, oh my God, like, how can I get started? And that's something that's frustrating even for me, that I feel that I'm inside, let's say. It's all the time you need to be networking, and I love it, but I don't love it when it becomes an obligation. So I don't love to, have to go out and find clients or stuff like that, which obviously is a reality. Like, they're not going to just come flying into you. You need to get out there. And when I don't like it when it's an obligation, I like it when it's organic. So I would say that's something that I don't like. And the other part that I don't like is the fact that I think the fact that it requires a lot of discipline. And I think that's the same with every job and life in general, but especially working for myself now, like, no one is pushing me to do things. You don't have a boss above me that says me, oh, if you do this today or this or that. So it's the consistency and the discipline that I need to structure my own day, and time management comes into play. And those are all things that, like, in school, they don't really teach you about that. So it was quite hard for me in the beginning, coming from the 9 to 5 work life and lifestyle, to then having my own firm and doing all these things at the same time, and finding the work-life balance. It was quite difficult, and especially because I'm dealing with cases that they're ongoing on the weekends. People call me in the evenings, in the mornings, all day and all week round, basically. And that was something that was a bit difficult for me to come to terms with. But I'm managing and I'm learning as I go. But I would say those are the few things that I'm not the biggest fan of.
Great. Thanks for the question, Alessio. Good one. And what are the skills necessary to thrive in a sports business career? I'm sure that you touch on that a lot when you're mentoring or coaching.
Yes. So I always say there's 3 main ingredients, I would say, that help me get to where I am, and that I would advise or that I'm still working on to help me get to where I want to get to. But I would advise other people to get started with. So I say those are knowledge, experience, and network. Knowledge, obviously, because you need to have an understanding of what you're doing. So I definitely think pursuing an education in the field that you want to specialize in is super important. Then experience. So obviously doing internships, volunteering, whatever it is to get that on-field experience is super, super relevant. And I would say that's almost as important as the knowledge part. And then the third one for me is network, which is what we talked about before. Sometimes it can feel a bit forced, but it's something that I would really suggest you to kind of, start being more fluent about and getting into a bit more, because it's so, so important in the sports industry to have a good network. And thanks to companies like iWorkinSport, they really kind of facilitate those meeting moments. But that's something that's really difficult for a lot of people, and that's a really big soft skill, I would say, that you would need to master to excel in the sports industry.
Great, thank you. Just to continue on skills, Roberto asks, besides English and Spanish, which language do you feel is most helpful to learn as a sports lawyer? Is it Portuguese, Italian, Dutch, or Deutsch in this case? So German, French.
Hi, Roberto. Thanks for your question. I'm a big fan of languages. I speak like 4/5 languages myself, and I've always felt like that opened so many doors for me. So thanks for the question. I love when people ask me about languages. As I mentioned, I'm very passionate about like different cultures and countries, and nowadays it really helps me to connect with my clients on a different level. Like I speak basic Portuguese because I studied in Brazil for 6 months. I obviously speak Spanish because I live here. I speak Dutch because I'm Dutch. I speak English, and I have some German family, so I also speak some German. And it just, even if it's not perfect, it just helps me. Even if it's on the basic level, the conversational level, it helps me connect to them in a different way. So I would say definitely Spanish and English, yes. And then I think Portuguese is also important because we have a lot of there's a lot of talent coming from Brazil, for example. And French is actually a language that I don't speak, and that's very frustrating for me. So I would definitely advise my younger self to also master French because it's an official FIFA language as well. And obviously countries like Switzerland, which are so huge on sports organizations, part of that country also speaks French. So I definitely think that would have helped me also a bit. But yeah.
Thank you. Listen, there's more questions coming in, so I'm giving preference to them. I'll get to some of my own in a second. Mardi Toon, hello, Mardi. Let us know where you're watching from. Great interview. Would you ever consider being a sports agent?
Thanks for your question. The simple answer is no. Like I've actually thought about that for quite a while. I would say no for two reasons. The first reason, because I think to be an agent is really something that needs to be like, it needs to align with your personality. And I just don't have that personality, because as much as working in sports and being a sports lawyer is already about networking, being an agent is all about like networking, negotiating, like it's all about that. And it's just not really my personality to that extent. And reason two is because I'm a sports lawyer, and a lot of sports lawyers are also agents, and a lot of agents are also sports lawyers. But basically a big group of my clients are agents, and I don't want them to think that there's a possible conflict of interest. So I consciously decided and chose to stay away from the agent side, to just provide legal services, to not create a bit of a mess or conflict of interest there, and to make sure that agents feel safe with me. I would say when dealing with legal cases, that they don't think I'm going to steal their client or something. So for those two reasons, I don't consider being an agent. But there's a lot of people that want to be an agent and a lawyer, and they're very compatible. I actually think all agents should also have legal knowledge. But yeah, for myself personally, I chose not to. But I'm not against it in general. I think it's great, just not for me.
Great. So what then would you say so far? I mean, you have at the moment a short career. As you said, you're young, you're starting, there's a lot ahead of you. But up to now, what has been the greatest challenge that you had to face, and maybe how you overcame it? Just think about it. Just before you're thinking about it, I'm going to ask Mohammed Ali, who sent a question here. It's not really clear to me, your question. So Mohammed, if you can rephrase it, then I'll put that question to Jessie in a minute. But go on.
Okay, so the biggest challenge, I would say, has at the same time been my biggest blessing. I think there's two of them. The first one, I think, is picking a niche, finding my niche in the industry. Because my career, as we've discussed before, has been a bit what some might consider messy, in the sense that like I started out with law, then I went into full-on sports management, then I went back to law. Like it wasn't very clear, and at the same time, that is very helpful to me nowadays, because I love the fact that I worked in sports management, and it gives me some kind of industry insights. I would say that if I had just focused on sports law, I wouldn't have had, and it also helps me now to mentor students that want to get into different fields that are not just sports law. So I love that, but at the same time, I kind of wish that I had found that niche earlier on, before even maybe starting law school. So I would have had a more focused target, I would say. So that was a challenge, and that was basically just because of a lack of knowledge. Like I had no idea sports law even existed. If I had known, obviously I would have, been drawn to it before, but I had no clue about it, because in law school they didn't have any subject called sports law. So I would say that was a challenge, finding my exact niche. And then another challenge has been for me the fact that from when I was very young, from a very young age, I moved abroad. So I kind of had to reestablish my life several times. Like I first moved to, I've lived in Barcelona for a year. I have lived in Madrid for a year when I did my Master de Acceso a la Abogacía, which is basically a master in legal practice in order to be able to sit the Spanish bar exam. So just kind of having to reestablish my whole life there, meeting new friends, learning the language and all of that. Then I lived in Switzerland for a bit. Then I came back to Barcelona. So all of that, I feel like maybe, it took quite some energy from me to do all of that. And maybe if I had just stayed in my hometown, obviously I don't want that. But if I had done that, maybe I would have had more time to focus on my actual professional development. Because at the same time, my personal development and my meeting new friends, going out, learning all these bureaucratic things, the language and all of that, these different things that kind of distracted me maybe from my journey. But at the same time, it's a blessing because it's how I managed to, have so many different friends from different nationalities, speak more languages. And I think international experience is great. But it's definitely been tough. And there's times when I felt lonely or there's times when I remember when I was doing the master's in legal practice in Madrid, and I already spoke some Spanish. And I remember sitting in class the first time and I had no clue what they just said. Like I just sat there and I was like, what is this? Like I felt so good, confident going in the class. Like, oh my God, like I'm a foreigner and I speak Spanish. And then I got there and I had no clue what they were talking about because legal Spanish is a whole different ball game than conversational Spanish. So that for me was very, very tough. It made me kind of feel like it made me almost quit my dream before I even started. Because I was like, I can't capable, I can't do that, but I fought through it, and now I'm very happy I did that. Yeah, those were definitely challenges along the way that I think people maybe don't really look at, because sometimes people tell me like, oh my God, like you're so lucky or you got so lucky. It's not really luck, it's just different choices, and they were definitely challenging as well.
Right. Good one. So let's talk about your masterclass, right? So let's, and not only the masterclass, you just mentioned that there's because the masterclass, you have this one for sports lawyers, right? But you have now another one too. So let's talk about them. Who is it for? Just before we do, I'm going to ask people that everyone who's watching specifically on YouTube, if you can hit that like button, let's show Jessie our love if you're enjoying it. That helps the channel too. So Jessie, let's talk about your masterclass.
Yeah, thanks for that. So this is something that came to me very organically, and it was never planned. Like I've never even thought about doing online courses. But basically, at some point, I got so many questions on LinkedIn from people asking me like, how did I get to work in sports as a girl? How did I get into sports, or in general as a human being? How did I get into this closed industry? What is it like being a sports lawyer? What do you do on a day-to-day basis? How can I get into sports? How do you find internships? I got so many of the same questions over and over that at some point I was almost like copying, pasting answers. And then I started thinking like maybe there's a way to help all these people, but like on a more scalable basis, because I can't be responding and, jumping on calls all the time because I already have such a busy schedule with all these people. But at the same time, I really wanted to help them because I've been in that position myself. Like if I go through my LinkedIn messages now from maybe like 5 years ago, I was that person reaching out to other people in the industry and looking for someone to kind of mentor me and guide me, where I was asking them like, I want to work for this and this company. And it's funny because sometimes nowadays I do come across those messages and then I'm looking at them like, oh my God, like what was I thinking sending that message? Like it's not properly drafted, but those are things that you learn along the way, obviously. So it kind of just happened that I felt like, okay, maybe I can put all of this together, all this knowledge and all of this experience that I've accumulated throughout my career so far, which is obviously, I'm still a fresh and young career, but it's quite a significant journey it's been. So then I just decided to bundle all of that and put that into an online course package. So right now I have, which is live, my Sports Lawyer Masterclass, which is basically an online self-paced course desired for anyone interested in sports and law. So whether you're an aspiring sports lawyer or aspiring sports agent, you will gain an overview of the theoretical framework, so the most pertinent case law and regulations that govern the sports law. And at the same time receive, and I think that's so important, and I think that was something that was really lacking, because there's a lot of educational programs right now, and there's a lot of books that you can read about sports law, and there's a lot of information on the web. But what is so important is the practical guidance. And that's something that I was really missing, to actually know how to get started. Because like I said before, even if you're an expert, you still need to somehow get into the industry and find your way through it. And that's something that I wish, I had a mentor for. So that's why I put all of those tips that I have and based on my own experience, basically into the masterclass. So that's why the masterclass consists of those 3 modules that I mentioned before: knowledge, experience, and network. And I would say it's a great starter package for anyone that is aspiring to work in sports law. And then, so when I had that course has been going really, really well, and I get so much positive feedback from people that makes me so happy to see that. And at the same time, I felt like there were so many questions coming from people that, because I've also worked in sports management, that were asking me about, different roles, not just sports law, and how to get into the industry in general. So that's why right now I'm putting the finishing touches on this new course that I've created, which is called the Sports Career Guide. And this is basically for anyone with an interest in working in sports, and it's all about the practical guidance that we discussed before: how to find internships, how to do personal branding, how to network effectively, how to land a job, how to create a good resume, and all these practical things that I think are super important, soft skills basically, to get into the industry. And another very important one, how to find your niche, which is what I mentioned before. I think that was such a big struggle for me, that I want to kind of guide people through that by just giving them a bigger overview of the different career prospects that I've seen while working at a club like FC Barcelona and a federation like UEFA, the different departments that exist. So yeah, again, I've kind of bundled all that knowledge and I've put that into the Sports Career Guide. I'm doing a pre-launch basically next week. I'll drop the link in the comment section as well, and on my profile on LinkedIn you can also find it. And that's basically for anyone interested in the sports industry.
Right. And how does that sort of differ from the mentoring that you give and the coaching? Is that so more or less the same content, but given in a different way?
Yeah, so that's a good question. Basically, so I do mentoring on the side as well. I'm actually I work together with iWorkinSport on this as a mentor. I'm listed on their website. The mentoring is just that the fact that it's personalized. So it's a one-on-one call, or it's multiple sessions with students where I get, it's one-on-one. So it's fully personalized to your journey. So things that I do during mentoring session, we create like a SWOT analysis of your personality kind of. So what are your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats that we see, to kind of create like this bigger picture so that you know what to work on, what to focus on, and also to be realistic, because we all have things that we're better at or worse at. And it's good to, have some kind of self-reflection and learn that from the beginning, which will help you find your niche. And then we also work a lot on your personal branding, and I just give you all the personalized tips specific to your situation, because it also differs a lot from what region you're in. And obviously the masterclass, it cannot be that personalized. It's more generic tips and tricks. And in the mentoring, I really, go down to the nitty-gritty stuff and personalize that to your specific situation.
And how does that work if someone wants to have coaching or mentoring with you? That normally, how many sessions do you have? One initial session to analyze the person's profile? How does that work? If someone looks for you, what's the next step?
So basically you can reach out to me. I'm on iWorkinSport website. I don't know, Charles, maybe you can share the link later. You can just reach out to me, and normally we kind of tailor make these mentoring packages per person. So that's why, again, it's super personalized. Right. Sometimes I do like a 90-minute session, and that's enough for a person to get started, and maybe along the way they feel like they need my help again, and then we have another session. Or sometimes we do bi-weekly check-ins. So we have like a 60-minute session week 1, then week 2 again, week 4 again. And I give you some kind of homework, especially when it comes to working on your personal brand and networking. That gives you some time to actually implement the tips that I share with you. So we kind of make like a tailor-made plan. It depends on obviously your financial resources, your timing, your needs. Maybe you're already far along the process and you just need that extra little push, or maybe you're at the beginning, you don't even know what to study yet. It depends on your situation, but we can make a tailor-made plan for you basically.
That's great. And you were we're talking about mentoring, and you mentioned that not too long ago you found some messages when you were looking for mentors. And so, who were your mentors then, back then? And how did you find them? Was only via LinkedIn? Was a recommendation? How was that process for you?
Yeah. So I'm not sure if I've had like one specific mentor. I remember I just reached out to a lot of people that I looked for on LinkedIn that I thought were working in positions that I wanted to work in. A lot of them responded, a lot of them also didn't. But I would say when I do think about a mentor figure, and shout out now to my friend, his name is Marcos Picayo. He works at the Barcelona Innovation Hub still, and he's the one actually that granted me the opportunity to intern at FC Barcelona. He was also the course director of the ESEI Sports Management and Legal Skills program. And he's a great friend of mine nowadays, but he's really that person that in the beginning actually functioned as a mentor to me, because he's the one that kind of got me into the internship. We discussed it, and we thought about if it would fit my profile or not. We decided to get ahead with it. And I remember during those first few months, even working at FC Barcelona, he's really the person that kind of showed me, and like he would tell me like, oh, you should improve this, or you should improve that, or this is important, that's important. And I'm not great at taking criticism. I know that for myself, and it's very bad. I need to work on that. But he really managed to like give me constructive feedback or criticism, which really, really helped me so much. I think that's super important. That's why when I say in these mentoring sessions, we make like a SWOT analysis. Knowing your weaknesses is so important. I think a lot of times people don't really want to like dive into that, but I actually chose to focus even more on my weaknesses than my strengths, just because I want to like, balance it out. And he really helped me with that, like just guiding me through those initial phases. And I would say thanks to him, I had also the courage to end up working at UEFA, because a lot of times I think in sports, like people suffer, or in life in general, people suffer from what is called like the imposter syndrome, where they feel like
Right.
maybe they're not good enough, or, I'm not capable enough. And especially me being like a young girl in the sports law industry, which is so specific. And usually when you think of a lawyer, you think maybe of like a 50-year-old person. I had a lot of doubts along the way. And I really think that those key persons that you meet in the beginning of your journey are so important, because they help you kind of shape your self-esteem, your belief system. And that's ultimately has been kind of my drive and my motor to land at where I am today. So big shout out to him, Marcos.
Cool. There's a question, a comment here from Mohammed in Sweden. If I took your master class, can I do an internship at your office, at your
Hey,
firm?
Mohammed. Yeah, thank you for the question. I get that question all the time. Unfortunately, I can't say yes to that, because I have so many enrolled students and I only have so many internship positions available. Obviously, whenever we choose interns, we look at people that we have some kind of that I'm familiar with, or that I know of, or people that I've engaged with a lot. So maybe there's like a higher chance, but I don't want to sell it like that, because it's not the purpose of the course. And I can't guarantee internship positions, because like I said, there's just, it's a very affordable, I would say, course that I've lowered the price recently, actually, to 79 euros, only to make it scalable, so to offer it to everyone possibly that would be interested in it. And I can't offer or guarantee an internship to every single one of them, because they all have the same goal. Everyone wants to get an internship, not necessarily my firm, but in general. But that's what the masterclass is going to help you with, to get that internship, to know how to approach someone to get an internship. Because talking about that, just asking like this, for example, when you say, can I get an internship there, it's not the best way, because we've had zero contact before. And I always tell people, like, it's so important to build some kind of prior relationship before asking such a question, which again is constructive feedback. But normally, especially in the sports industry, to actually obtain an internship, you need knowledge, experience, and some kind of interaction with that person, to be able to find your way there and to differentiate yourself from others.
Very well said. Very well said. But Mohammed, I took that as a maybe. So take the master class. There is Mardi Tuna here, a comment from her or him. I'm from London, 31 years old. Is that too old or too young to do sports law, and what is some of the best advice you received on your journeys? Yeah, so is there an advice that you received that you pass on to others?
Yeah, definitely. So thank you, Marty, for the question. I definitely don't think that that's too old or too young. Again, that's very closely linked, I would say, to the imposter syndrome that we talked about before. Thinking that your age or your knowledge or capabilities are going to restrict you from succeeding in the field. 31, I would say, is almost like the perfect age to get started in this. Like, you can be a lawyer until you're 60, 70, as long as you want. So I definitely don't let age be more than just a number. And for the advice part, I would say, and it's very cliche, but it's the compound effect. So being consistent and doing small things that will eventually lead to bigger results. Someone, I don't even know who it was, but I've heard it several times, and it's quite well known. Like, the compound effect is just doing small actions on a consistent basis will eventually lead to effective results. And that's something I had to learn along the way as well, where I felt, like I said in the beginning of this webinar, I was like, the minute I opened my firm, I felt like, okay, I've opened my firm now, the clients are just going to come falling from the sky. Or I felt like, okay, I've studied law now, I deserve to be working at the best law firm or whatever. And then I realized, like, okay, it actually doesn't work like that. I need to prove myself day in, day out, and work very hard and do all these small actions that maybe I don't feel like doing right now. I didn't feel like maybe being super active on LinkedIn all the time and being consistent with it, or reaching out to people all the time, or like I said before, going through this master in legal practice, not understanding legal Spanish well enough to actually be able to pass the Spanish bar exam. But if I hadn't done all these things individually, I wouldn't be sitting here, and I wouldn't be doing the things that I'm doing now. So it's all these things that I didn't feel like doing, still doing them, and just being consistent with those little efforts. I would say that's really the key to success, that I'm still
Yeah.
working on and struggling with on a day-to-day basis myself, because it's difficult. But I would really say that's the best advice, like, to just stay consistent.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. There is a movie with Kevin Costner. Do you know The Field of Dreams?
Yes.
Yeah, where they say if you build it, they will come. It's only the movie that works that way. Once you put a lot of work in building something,
Yeah.
then you have to work even more to sell it and to make it work. Now,
Exactly.
talking about that, actually, let's talk a little about personal branding. We're coming to the end. I know that you need to leave soon, so maybe let's finish with that, perhaps another one. But very quickly, what's the importance of personal branding? What are the best practices?
Thank you for that question. Again, that's also something else I teach in my courses, and it's something that I find so important that I really underestimated myself back in the day, because I felt like, okay, why do I need to personally brand myself if I'm already, I have my education and stuff, but it's so important to profile yourself and to put yourself out there and to be active on these great platforms that we have nowadays, that we have on social media, especially LinkedIn is a great tool. Personal branding for me is basically has been the key to my success, I would say, because no one, if no one knows you, there's not much you can do with your knowledge, so you need to put yourself out there, and you need to brand yourself, and you need to publish things. I publish articles, I publish tips on how to get into the sports industry, I respond to all the messages I get. I produce quite a lot of content online, and that's so important. And there's actually, if you're interested in personal branding and all of that, there's this guy called Gary Vee, which I'm sure most of you guys are familiar with, but he's very big on publishing content and personal branding and stuff. And he's a really good mentor in that sense for me. I would definitely advise you guys to check him out, and yeah, to not forget about personal branding, to not underestimate the power of personal branding and of networking, which to me are really the keys to succeeding in the sports industry, and also to differentiate yourself from others, because there's 100%, there's people out there that are so much better than me at my job, but maybe people cannot find them because they're not, they don't have a personal brand, basically. So it's very, very important, and I would really advise you to invest some time in that. And at the end of the day, I think there's nothing more powerful than your own brand and investing in your own brand. It's never a wasted money or time. So yeah, I'm very big on that.
Great. Thank you, Jessie. We're gonna cut short. Normally, we do this to an hour, but I know that you're booked with other podcasts or other commitments that you have, so you need to leave a little early. So I don't know if you have 30 seconds to maybe recommend a book that I always ask my guests to recommend to the audience, and then I'll let you go.
Definitely. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on. And my book recommendation would be, I have many that I like, but I would say the one that I learned a lot from is What They Don't Teach You at Harvard Business School. I'm sure a lot of you guys are already familiar with that one, but I really, really like that one because everything we've discussed before, like there's such a thing as the theoretical knowledge, but then this other thing of actually implementing all of that in real life, and time management skills, social relationship skills, discipline, communication, all these different things, how to do sales. These are so important, and those are all things that obviously in law school they didn't teach me. So I really learned a lot from that book, and I really advise you guys to check that out.
That's great. Jessie, thank you so much. Tanatiu Barreto, sorry if I killed your name, summarized it well. One of the best sessions. That was great as well. Couldn't agree more. And yeah, thanks so much for doing this. Wishing a lot of success. Looking forward to continuing to collaborate with you and with iWorkinSport and other projects. So yeah, and to everybody, if you're also interested in her masterclass, there's a link in the description here if you're watching on YouTube, as well as links to the Education Virtual Expo and to the iWorkinSport Job Fair. Both are coming up. Thank you, Jessie.
Thank you so much, guys. Do not hesitate to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I love connecting with all of you. And thank you so much, Joe, for the opportunity to be on here. Thank you, guys.
All right, see you all next week. Bye-bye.